Well, I want to continue with a series that we've been doing. We've been doing a series all through the month called After the Hashtags, moving from outrage to real change. And today is week 3 of the series. And as we start, I want to ask you a question. And here's a question I want you to answer and ask someone next to you. What is one thing that you bought on impulse that you never really needed? Can you think of one thing you bought on impulse that you never really needed? Can you think of anything at all? Please ask someone next to you, really quickly. Just ask someone next to you, what's something you bought on impulse that you never really needed? Make sure no one is left out. Introduce yourself to someone if you don't know them. Shake someone's hand and ask them, what did you buy on impulse that you never really needed? Really needed. What is one thing you bought? Someone shout something. What did you hear? Someone shout something. What's one thing? Sorry, say again? Wait. Let me just say, if the person next to you said a car, I'm very worried for them. And you bought a car on impulse and you don't need it. My goodness. Those are the problems I want in my life. I want those types of problems in my life. S-class. Oh my goodness. What did you hear? What else did you hear? Shoes. Anyone say shoes? Shoes, you bought shoes. You saw them. Look at those boots. My goodness. Some people even have stopped listening to the message from here on end. They want to know, where is the sale for these shoes? We want to buy them on impulse today. So shoes could be one of those things. Maybe you bought a pair of shoes, you didn't need them. They don't even fit you well. But the swag, for the sake of the swag, you have to wear those shoes. What else? Did anybody say gadgets? Anyone bought a gadget on impulse? Surely you people, do you not know a place called Oraimo? Surely. If you're on the internet and you see Oraimo, let me tell you, you will want to buy a gadget that you don't even know what it's for or how it's used, and now it's sitting in your house and you don't even know what to do with it. Anyone say clothes? Anyone say the clothes they are currently? All right, let's not go there. Too soon. But clothes could be one of those things that you buy. You're walking in town, you see a store somewhere, and you think to yourself, oh my goodness, I need to do. Maybe you saw something in a supermarket or a mall, and you saw buy two. You see, you people know these things. You know these things. Now you have 3 bottles of shampoo in your house. You don't need them. You don't even like the fragrance. But you walked away saying, I have saved money. And as a result, you are happy with it. Let me tell you my story. One day, I'm surfing the internet, and I'm convinced that I'm going to become a world-class podcaster. And as a result, I see some lights online, and I decide these are the lights that are going to move me to the next level. Because obviously, the only thing holding me back from being a world-class podcaster is lights. It's the only thing. Here now, we are closing the gap. So I see these lights online and I tell myself, my goodness, I need to buy these lights. And I go ahead and I order these lights. I think it must have been from Amazon or somewhere, I don't remember. And I order these, oh, thank you. They look exactly like that. 2 lights, 2 tripods, a remote, and all of this. And I'm so grateful. Now my career is about to take off. Let me tell you, Minor. The package arrived one day and it was this size. Literally this size. So I open the package and I'm incensed. I go to the website. I'm like, what is going on here? 2 lights have fitted in this small box. 2 tripods, a remote control, batteries and everything else. Shock on me. I had not realized that there were miniature lights. Those lights are still in my house till today. They are the reason, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a world-class podcaster. That is the reason. Let me tell you, if the right ones came, you would not be seeing me the way you'd be seeing me. I'd be a serious influencer, world-changing influencer by now. But my point is this. This is the world of marketing. And this is how marketing actually works. I am actually a marketer by training, one of the things I've trained in. And I'll say to you this. Many times we think that marketers are selling us products. I want to tell you, marketers are not, we don't sell you products. That's not the thing we sell you. What do we sell you? We sell you swag. We sell you emotion. We sell you status. We sell you all sorts of things. Products are the last thing on the marketers' minds. We are selling possibilities, aspirations, identities. Surely, where are the Apple people? Who has an iPhone? Apple people. So be proud about it. I'm not going to say something bad about you just yet until you raise your hands. Surely, what does Apple sell you? It doesn't sell you phones. It sells you class. This isn't prestige that it's selling you. Nike. You're wearing Nike shoes. What is Nike selling you? Swag. The same level of swag. That's the thing that they are selling, not the shoes. The shoes are luxury brands don't sell handbags and watches. What do luxury brands sell? There you go. Luxury brands are selling you status more than anything else. The product is secondary. What marketers are really selling you is a vision. In fact, when marketers come to sell to you, it's a very important word that they use or that they have. And that word is agenda. The marketer has an agenda for your life. He has an agenda for how you're going to see yourself, how you're going to perceive yourself, your identity, and so on and so forth. And let me just say, there's nothing wrong with the word agenda. Every family has an agenda. Every church, even today, I have an agenda. There's nothing wrong with agendas. Many times, however, the challenge is that there are people who have agendas for your life, but you're unaware of them. You don't know that there are people who have agendas over your life. And as a result, when you fail to recognize agendas that are behind messages, you become easier to influence than you actually realize. Agendas. Agendas apply in many places in our lives, but they also apply in the public sphere of life. They apply where political movements are concerned, where politicians are concerned. Let me tell you, many times we think that politicians, the product they are selling us is manifestos. And the product that they are selling us is policy. And yes, there is truth to that. But above everything else, I think there's a greater product. There's a product where they are trying to shape the way we think. They are trying to define for us the issues that matter the most. And oftentimes in doing so, what they will end up telling us is who to trust, is who to fear, is who to blame, and ultimately who and how we are supposed to vote. I mean, think about the narratives that we've been told over the years. Over the years, as we enter an election season, there's always a hero. And the hero is coming to save your constituency, or the hero is coming to save your ward or your county. But there's also a opposite of hero. Villain. There's also a villain you need to be cautious about. There's a villain in your ecosystem that you need to be very, very cautious about. Someone who we can blame. And sometimes we are taught how and who to blame. Sometimes we are taught to blame communities. And we are shown how it is that we are supposed to blame communities around us. Sometimes the narrative is different. Sometimes the narrative, it's the elite, those who have against those who do not have. And we heard that narrative recently, didn't we? Allah? What I'm saying is, the details of these things may change from one election cycle to the other. But the underlying pattern is remarkably similar. That there are those who come with an agenda. This is the psychology of politics. And if you're not careful, if you're unaware and your eyes are not open to the fact that you are a product, and that there is an agenda for you, you will easily find yourself thinking certain thoughts, feeling certain ways, taking certain positions, and deceiving yourself that the decisions that you made were independent, that you are the one who made them by yourself. Shock on you. It's no different from marketers. You wake up and you think to yourself, you made an independent decision to purchase something. There are people in a boardroom years ago who sat, and you are the agenda on the table, and they put you inside the box. So let me ask you a few questions as we get started today. What if some of your strongest political opinions are not entirely your own? What if we have unwittingly become players in someone else's game? And more importantly, guys, how do we make sure we don't become pawns in someone's political agenda? That's a conversation I'd like us to have today. Now, as I said, we've been going through this series after the hashtags, moving from outrage to real change. And the whole idea is that we live in this era of outrage, of headlines, of hashtags. What does it mean to be a follower of Jesus in an era like this? In the week 1, we talked about this whole thing about the Lord needs to deliver us from on one side living with apathy and indifference, and from the other living with constant, perpetual outrage that does nothing for us. And we said our one tagline was, pick up a stone, build a wall. Last week, we talked about how your faith must have practical application outside of Sunday and must reach a world in need of justice. And we said, choir, get ready, the true test of Sunday, thank you very much, the true test of Sunday is Monday. Today, the question we ask, how do we ensure as followers of Jesus we don't become pawns in someone else's agenda? So once again, we go back to the book of Nehemiah. We've been studying the book all through this month. We talked about how in Nehemiah chapter 1, Nehemiah develops this incredible burden for the city of Jerusalem that's lying in ruins, whose walls are broken down. In week 2, he begins to mobilize people and mobilize resources. In chapter 2. In chapter 3, he goes and he begins to survey the place and he begins the work of building. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are in chapter 4. And in chapter 4, this is what's happening. The people have begun the work of rebuilding the walls of the city of Jerusalem. They are actually halfway done into the rebuild of the walls. And as they rebuild, they encounter some people who have an agenda. They encounter some people who have an agenda and have some tactics. Let's read a little bit about these people. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1 to verse 3. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1 to verse 3. It says this. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry. He was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are these feeble Jews doing?" The who Jews? What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Surely, can they bring these stones back to life from the heaps of rubble, burnt as they are? Then Tobiah, another gentleman, Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at Sanballat's side, says this, "What are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it would break down the wall of stones." So, church, ladies and gentlemen, we meet two people here, Sanballat and Tobiah, who are determined to stop the rebuilding. In fact, even before we go far, can we just admit that Sanballat is an awkward name? Sanballat sounds more like a drug that your doctor prescribes for you. Take 2 Sanballats in the morning, 2 in the evening, and you'll be better by... That's what that name sounds like. But here are 2 men, Sanballat and Tobiah. And they have their own very, very real agenda. Follow this story with me. So Sanballat was the governor of Samaria, which was further up north from Jerusalem. And Tobiah was an influential leader among the Ammonite people who are living to the east of Jerusalem. Now together, People like Sanballat and Tobiah, they represent the political and economic establishment that surrounds Jerusalem. Now, for years, Jerusalem had been weak and inconsequential. Remember, I told you years ago, Jerusalem was a city that threatened many states. But now for many years it's been lying in ruins. It's inconsequential. It's weak. Its influence is diminished. And that position suited Sanballat and Tobiah just perfectly. They were interested in retaining the status quo of Jerusalem. But now the problem, ladies and gentlemen, is a man called Nehemiah comes on the scene. Nehemiah comes on. The walls now are being rebuilt. The people are being united. Their confidence is growing. And a stronger Jerusalem, very important, a stronger Jerusalem is a threat to the status quo. It's a threat to Sanballat, to Tobiah, and to others who are around. What Nehemiah saw as a restoration, Sanballat saw as a threat. And his agenda was one. It was simple. Maintain status quo. Protect power. And notice something fascinating. You think about it. Sanballat, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. Sanballat is the governor. It means that he has some resources at his disposal. It means that if a wall is going up and he's not happy about it, he can marshal people. He can marshal an army. He can marshal some people. Go tear down that wall. He has some resources, doesn't he, as the governor? But then, see what he does. He doesn't actually attack the wall. He attacks the mindset of the builders of the wall, is what he does. He understands a principle that marketers, political movements, propagandists have understood throughout history. If you can shape the way people think, you will shape the way they act. So before he tries to stop the work physically, he tries to stop the work psychologically. And Sanballat has tactics. So we've said he has an agenda. Maintain status quo. Maintain power. That's his agenda. But then he begins to use certain tactics against the people of Jerusalem. He uses at least 3 tactics that I see in this passage. Do you want to hear the 3? Here are the 3 tactics that he uses. Tactic number 1 that he uses, mockery. Mockery is his first tactic. You guys, even a fox. Do you guys know Bosco? That dog that roams in every neighborhood, near butcheries and what? You know Bosco? Even Bosco, if he came, he'll push you all over. That's exactly what this guy is saying. Mockery is what he starts with. Let's read verse 2 again. It says, what are those feeble Jews doing? Guys, these guys have built half the wall, by the way, by this point. Are you understanding that? They have already in record time built half the wall. But he begins to mock them. Surely, anyway, these Jews, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring these stones that are a heap of rubble back to life? Bosco, Sika, go, Bosco, go, Sha. They begin to mock the people. Notice that before Sanballat criticizes the project, he belittles the people. He labels the people as weak and incapable. And he knows that if he can get the builders to begin to doubt themselves, they can then lay aside God's agenda for them. Mockery is designed to make people question themselves until they stop trying. That's what mockery is designed for. And guys, let me tell you, we see the same tactic of mockery in public life today. We see it. I mean, you get onto your television set and you'll watch a political debate happen. And there are some people who are excellent at mockery, such as, use your inside voice. Use your inside voice. I don't want to be fired here. But you know them, isn't it? The people you'll go and they'll have a conversation, and their goal is not to discuss with you the merits of what we are discussing. Their idea is to mock you into a place where you feel foolish enough to stop doing what it is that you are doing. Sometimes the easiest way to protect an agenda is not to defeat an argument, but is to ridicule the person making the argument. So that if you support a particular policy, or you feel a particular way, someone will mock and ridicule you until the point where you feel foolish about the position that you have taken. If you decide, listen, I'm not going to vote according to ethnic or tribal lines, the people who come and they'll say to you, you're being naive. You don't understand how the world works. That's naivety on your part. That's all it is. Others will come and say, don't be foolish. Don't waste your vote. That is mockery. For those who refuse to participate in corruption, someone will come and say to you, hey, anyway, you're just being idealistic. You're being idealistic and a simpleton. Tell someone next to you, no, don't do that. Don't do that, please. You're being idealistic and a simpleton who doesn't understand how the world works. And even the enemy has his voice of mockery over our lives. He comes and he says to people every election cycle, surely, who are you? What will your vote accomplish? You are one person. Surely, if you don't vote, surely, will the governor even remember? Will he feel it? Is it that he's going to lose by one vote and you are the deciding vote? Are you really that powerful? Tell someone next to you are that powerful. And oftentimes the goal of mockery is not to answer your argument. The goal of mockery is to make you feel foolish for raising it. Let me say, mockery doesn't exist to prove that you're wrong. It exists to make the cost of disagreeing feel too high. I can't disagree. I'm afraid of being mocked and feeling foolish at the end of the day. Because here's the thing. Once people begin to believe that they are too small to make a difference, they begin to quietly exit from the very places where they can make that difference. Sanballat understood, if I can mock these people, if I can make them feel foolish and make them feel small, they will abandon their agenda and they will stop building. Tactic number 1 was mockery. Hey, but let me tell you, Sanballat is clever. He has multiple tactics. He has a second tactic, and his second tactic is fear. Fear. Now, when mockery doesn't work, he changes tact. And this is different. It doesn't, fear doesn't tell you that you're foolish. Fear tells you you're in danger. Danger. Shh, you're in danger. You're in trouble. Nehemiah 4, 11 to 12. Listen to what happens. This is later on. A few verses later, it says this. This is now the people of Jerusalem speaking amongst themselves. Also our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to their work. It goes on to say, then the Jews who lived near them came and told us, how many times? 10 times over. Wherever you turn, they will attack us. So notice the phrase, 10 times. Over and over and over. And it's not even the message that has come to them. They are now speaking amongst themselves. 10 times saying, they will attack us. 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 10 times. And guys, let me tell you, whether the threat is immediate, and there is no evidence. There is no evidence in the Bible that the threat was immediate. But whether the threat is immediate or not is irrelevant. Because the repetition of it creates fear. And Sanballat's agenda had not changed. His goal was that the work stops. And he had discovered something. This is so important for us people. Frightened people are easier to control. Agenda, box. Frightened people are easier to control than confident people. Guys, again, the parallel is not that difficult for us to see. Oftentimes, political movements will appeal, let me tell you, to our deepest fears. Yeah. They will tell us, they will convince us, be afraid of that community. And that's one that's been used in our nation year in, year out, election cycle after election cycle. Be afraid. Be very afraid of that region. Be very afraid of that political party. Be afraid. That's the narrative. And what happens? We become afraid. Now we become afraid that our tribe will be dominated. We become afraid that our region will be forgotten. We become afraid that our opportunities will disappear. And we are taught somehow to fear that if those people somehow come to power, everything we value will be lost. And that's a tactic that's been used for generations, to the point where Kenyans are unable to see that this is a tactic. You know, they say a fish doesn't know it's wet. You know, a fish doesn't know. It doesn't think, oh my goodness, get me a towel. I'm dripping. It doesn't know. And we've lived in an ecosystem for generations where we feel that it is okay. But I'm trying to say to you that this is an age-old narrative and tactic that is used, because if I can make you afraid, we are no longer discussing issues. We are no longer discussing what we are after as a people. All we are discussing is, I need to retreat to my conclave. I need to retreat to my people. And the one who leads that now can tell us what to do. They can tell us where to go. They can tell us how to think. They can tell us how to act at that point. Fear is effective because it narrows our thinking and it makes us easy to control. Guys, fear doesn't allow us to ask the right questions. It doesn't allow us to ask questions. What is true? Who is qualified? What is for the good of this nation? How will future generations benefit? Fear robs us of the opportunity to ask the right questions. And the question that we begin to ask is this: who will take care of me? Who will protect me? Who is on my side? Who should I be afraid of? And before long, we stop thinking like citizens and we begin to become pawns on someone's chessboard. Soon we move where we are told to move. We fear who we are told to fear. We distrust those we are told to distrust. And without realizing it, we become pawns in someone else's agenda. This is exactly what Sanballat understood. So Sanballat used mockery against the people. Even Bosco will down your wall. And then he goes on and he says, hey, we will attack and kill you. And he begins to use fear. But then none of those are working. He moves on and he uses the most sinister of them, division. Division is number 3. Nehemiah tells us in Nehemiah 4:6, this is what's happening. So we rebuilt the wall. These are the people of Jerusalem. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height. For the people worked with all their heart. You see, the enemy understood. As long as the people remained united, as long as they remained united around God's agenda, the wall would continue to rise. Can I tell you, a united people are difficult to stop. A united Kenya, a united citizenry will be difficult to stop. But a divided people will defeat themselves. Nobody will need to do it. They will defeat themselves. And I want to say to you that that tactic of division has never changed. It hasn't. Let me tell you, one of the oldest ways to preserve the status quo is to convince ordinary people that their greatest enemy is another ordinary person. When we are convinced the biggest enemy you have in Kenya is another ordinary person, what begins to happen is that division begins to happen. And it becomes very easy to control people. Hey, tribe is pitted against tribe. The rich are pitted against the poor. And we've seen that narrative in this country. Division. Rural are pitted against urban. And we see that in some of our communities and some of our counties as well. And instead of asking the question, what future are we going to build together? We become convicted that we must fight one another. I want to ask you a question. Have you noticed that during election seasons, many of the people who are fighting, either verbally or even if it gets to the place of physically, have you realized they all want the same thing? Maybe you haven't. But can I tell you, the farmer in Kerugoya, he wants the exact same thing as the trader in Kakamega. Doesn't he? He's after the same exact thing. He's after opportunities. He's after a good, stable economy. He wants to be able to trade and better himself. Regardless of where they are from, they are after the same thing, the rebuilding of the wall. There's a border rider in Nairobi, and there's a graduate student in Embu. They both want opportunities. Regardless of whether you're from Garissa or Taita Taveta, the reality of it is we all want good education for our children, isn't it? We all want good infrastructure. We all want good health care and good systems. Ideally, we are all after the same thing, the rebuilding of the wall. But when the Sanballats come and they sell us narratives and we begin to buy into this narrative, what that means is that we stop becoming about healthcare. We stop becoming about education. We stop becoming about the agendas that should drive us. And we become about someone else's agenda. One of the oldest tricks in history is to convince people to fight each other while ignoring the real problems that affect them. And my one point in the message today is this. Hey, people of God, people of Mavuno Church, refuse to become someone else's pawn. Refuse to become someone else's pawn in their game. What I love about Nehemiah is that none of these tactics work. Number one was mockery, Bosco. Number two was fear. Number three was division. None of these tactics actually work. In fact, if anything, Nehemiah continues to rally the people towards what their own agenda was: building the wall, securing their common future, rallying their people. And one of the most powerful moments in the entire book of Nehemiah comes 2 chapters later in Nehemiah chapter 6. Because when Sanballat realizes none of my strategies are working to divide and conquer these people, he does something. He summons Nehemiah and he calls him to a meeting. He says, come, let's do a handshake. Objection, Your Honor. Let me read Nehemiah chapter 6. Verse 2, 3, and 4. And it says this. Sanballat and Geshem. Now, Geshem is another gentleman who's joined the opposition bandwagon. Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, Nehemiah, saying, come, Nehemiah. Come, let's meet together. Let's talk among the villages in the plain of Ono. Let's meet at Serena. But they thought, oh, okay, let me stick. Sorry, it's the lighting, guys. The lighting is confusing me. But Nehemiah says, but they thought to do me harm. So I sent messengers to them saying, powerful thing. I am doing a great work. I cannot come down. What a phrase. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? But they sent me this message time after time after time after time. And I answered them in the same manner, time after time after time after time. But what a remarkable phrase, church. What a remarkable thing he says. I am doing a great work. I can't come down. Hey, that needs to be someone's posture. Someone's posture as you listen to narratives and you listen to stories. Someone needs to say, no, I'm doing a great work. I cannot come down. I can't come down to listen to your narratives. I can't come down to be a part of your agenda. I am doing a great work. Church, I want to say, the next few months are going to be noisy. Do you know that? They are going to be incredibly noisy. Political movements will begin to make their promises. Pundits will share their expert opinions. Keyboard warriors, they are sharpening their claws right now to begin. Social media will overflow with rumors, headlines, and hot takes. In fact, I want to tell you, we are going to experience more artificial AI content than we ever have in the past. Agendas are going to become louder than ever before. But you need to have a sense of discernment, because not every voice has your agenda in mind. Not every voice is about building the wall. And I want to say to you, as the noise increases, as the energy and the momentum ramps up over the next year or so, someone at Mavuno Church needs to say, I am doing a great work. I'm not coming down to that level of conversation or that level of engagement. I'm building the wall. So how then do followers of Jesus respond in an era where noise is going to increase, where conversations are going to multiply, where WhatsApp groups, people are going to start fighting each other in WhatsApp groups and disagreeing in WhatsApp groups? How then do we begin to respond? 3 things I'll tell you real quick. 1, test every narrative. Church, test every narrative. The Apostle Paul, in the book of Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8, says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Notice he starts and he says, whatever is true. Church, not whatever is popular. No, not whatever everybody is agreeing about in your family meeting. Not about what everyone is feeling in your WhatsApp group, in one WhatsApp group or the other. It's not whatever has gone viral. It's not whatever the polls say. It's not whatever the community believes. He says, whatever is true. Let me tell you, followers of Jesus must be the hardest people to manipulate. We must be, because we are committed to pursuing what is true. Not what is emotional or convenient or politically useful, or what is true. So this week, this month, and over the next couple of months and over the next year, I want to challenge us that as you engage with content, as you engage with agendas, as you engage with narratives, that you think and you ask yourself 3 questions. Before you enter a political conversation, before you share a video, before you repeat a rumor, ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1, is it true? 2, is there evidence? 3, very important, whose agenda will be served by me forwarding this message? Is it true? Is there evidence? And whose agenda does this serve? Remember, you must refuse to become someone else's pawn in this season. Test every narrative. Number 2, oh man, so important. Guys, refuse to hate people you have never met. Refuse to hate people you have never met. You know, history teaches us that humanity's darkest moments don't begin with violence. Our darkest moments don't begin with wars and armies and tanks. Our darkest moments in history as a people have begun with stories that have taught ordinary people to fear and to despise someone else. That's where it always starts. Followers of Jesus must resist the temptation. You must resist the temptation. Somewhere you must begin to understand people are not the enemy. People are not. Injustice is the enemy. Corruption many times is the enemy. Division, deception is the enemy. That's the real enemy. James, in the book of James, has a really powerful passage. And it connects very well with what we talked about last week for those who were here. The real test of Sunday is Monday. James chapter 3 verse 9 says this. Listen to this. With the tongue, do you know the tongue that you have used today? Baba. What else did we sing today? Christ is my firm. With the tongue, with the same tongue that you used to sing, that you have praised God, that you've done those moves. You can tell I was a dancer in a previous life. Objection. But it's saying, with the tongue that we have used today to praise our Lord and God, with it, that same tongue, we are using it to curse human beings who have been made in God's likeness. It's that very tongue that we use to despise others, to cause hate, to buy into narratives and say those people with the same tongue. Yet it says those people are made in God's likeness. It's saying this, every Kenyan person, regardless of where they live, their socio-economic status, their political persuasion, their party of choice, their ethnicity and tribe, every one of them is made in the image of God, in the likeness of God. That they carry the image of God. Look around the room. Look at someone next to you. Tell them you're made in the image of God. Everyone. And let me tell you, the person you spoke to, you may not know their background. You may not know where they are from. You may not know what their political persuasion is. But it's saying that they are made in the image of God. People are made in God's likeness. We must choose not to hate people we have never met. People who are full of the image of God in them. If someone bears God's image, they are too valuable to be reduced to an ethnicity. They are too valuable to be reduced to a voting bloc or to a stereotype. So this week, this month, and in the days to come, I'll challenge us. Intentionally cross a boundary that has been created. Maybe it's a socio-economic boundary. Maybe it's a political persuasion boundary. Maybe it's an ethnic boundary. Cross it this week. Invite someone from a different space, even to a cup of tea. Listen to their story. Learn their name. Discover what you have in common. You will discover you all want the wall built. You will discover you all want the economy stable. You all want the same things at the end of the day. But somehow we buy into lies and stories and narratives and agendas. And we become divided. I've realized it's difficult to hate someone once you have heard their story. The three things I said. Number one, test every narrative. Number two, I'm excited that you're taking notes so fervently. It just moves my heart. Test every narrative. Number two, refuse to hate people you have never met. Number three, and finally, stay focused on the wall. I love it. Nehemiah never once loses focus. It doesn't care whether you are in Jerusalem for a short time or a long time. Whether you are young or old. Whether you are from this tribe. Even they had tribes. The tribes of Israel. Whether you're from this tribe or that tribe. He's like, I'm not taking my eyes off the wall. There is one task here. Build the wall. Build the wall. Build the wall. Build the wall. Somehow, as Kenyan people, I fear that we've bought so many narratives and we've stopped building the wall. I fear that we've bought into so many agendas and we've started fighting wars that are not even ours, things that are not helping us to build the wall. Nehemiah stays focused. Build the wall. If we're not building something meaningful together, we'll spend all our energy reacting to the latest outrage while someone else's agenda is advancing. Nation building requires citizens who will value truth over tribe, who will value unity over division, who will value the common good over political victory. That's the war. As I close, I'll say, church, over the next coming months, there are going to be countless voices competing for your attention. Some voices will mock you. Some will attempt to frighten you. Some will attempt to divide you. But every one of them has an agenda. Hey, but above every political agenda must be God's agenda. God's agenda for us is that we would have life, and that we would have life in abundance for all of us. So I want to encourage you, don't surrender your mind to mockery. Don't surrender your heart to fear. And don't surrender your relationships, very important, to division. Stay on the wall. Keep building what God has called us to build. And whenever those things happen, mockery happens, fear or division happens, remember the words of Nehemiah. And he said, I'm doing a great work. I cannot come down. I'm not going to enter those conversations. I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. I'm not going to hate someone. I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. I'm not going to enter the space of corruption. I'm doing a great work. I cannot come down. Remember this season we must refuse to become someone else's pawn. Help me preach. Turn to someone next to you, tell them, refuse to become someone else's pawn. Refuse to become someone else's pawn. That's God's word over us today.